My name is Muhammad Kudu Abubakar. President Muhammadu Buhari in 2016 introduced the National Social Investment Program with a target to reduce extreme poverty and hunger, which is one of the cardinal objectives of the Buhari administrations and the governing All Progressives Congress, APC. The program has 4 components, which include N-Power, Conditional Cash Transfer, CCT, Government Enterprise and Empowerment Program, GEEP, and Homegrown School Feeding Program. President Buhari, while addressing a high-level side event on the SDG integration, bridging the policy planning budgeting gap for the achievement of the Sustainable Development Goals at the United Nations General Assembly, the 74th session recently, announced that Nigeria established an ambitious national social investment program targeting the poor and vulnerable members of the Nigerian population. 3 years on, the program recorded successes as many states have keyed into the laudable objectives of the scheme. In recognition of these successes, the SWAB Foundation, a sister organization of the World Economic Forum, endorsed Nigeria's national social investment programs by conferring the prestigious Public Social Entrepreneur Award on Mrs. Maryam Uwais, Special Advisor to the President on Social Investments. The recognition of the social investment program's innovative approach at both the national and international levels is seen as a potential for global impact. Perhaps this encouraged the federal government to earmark 30 billion naira in 2020 appropriation bill for social investments, in line with the administration's efforts to remove 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. In this edition of Platform, we will be focusing on Nigeria's social investment program, with no other person, of course, the special advisor to the President on social investments, Mrs. Maryam Uwais. She is also a legal practitioner. Mrs. Maryam Uwais, welcome to the platform.
Thank you for having me.
As usual, we have the panelist corner where Franca Uzoma Olua, Assistant Director News of the NTA, is spearheading that.
You're welcome.
And of course, we have Ruth Aguele of the NTA Current Affairs Unit, and of course, the assistant producer of this program.
Thank you.
Mrs. Maryam Uwais, let's begin by saying congratulations for the recognition, Entrepreneur Award, and the fact that the social investment program so far in its 3rd year has gotten a global award. And naturally, you collected that award. How did it feel?
I don't know, I'm a little overwhelmed, but also very thankful to the Almighty for the fact that we have the atmosphere that enables us to do what we're doing, for the foresight of our leadership, for the team that works with us, and generally the fact that Nigerians are beginning to accept that this is actually happening, because one of the greatest challenges for us was the skepticism and the cynicism that the money is being stolen, it's not being done, it's only special people that are getting it, that are connected, or politicians. So this sort of like endorsed us and gave us the motivation to continue along this path,
Well, you made mention of some of the skepticism, of course, yourself, and of course the fact that typical of Nigerians, they will always say my side is not has not gotten aid, or I'm not impacted. What is the modus operandi of the scheme that you can now confidently say it has gone into the nook and crannies of Nigeria?
Let me just say that it isn't 30 billion that was budgeted for 2020. It's actually 400 billion. If you had looked at the budget lines of capital is 50 and recurrent is 350.
So it's like 400 billion for social
investments. The 30 billion, it used to be 100 billion that was budgeted for the social housing fund. And that's a fund that's managed by the Ministry of Finance. So it's that amount that is now 30 billion. It's not the social investment program.
Thank you for that correction.
Thank you.
Now let's go to the modus operandi of this scheme.
It depends on which program. You know, we have different targets. So for the Empower, it's youth. For the Jeep, it's women, it's artisans, it's petty traders. For the school feeding program, primarily it's the children to make sure they eat a balanced diet. So it's nutrition, it's enrollment. It's also women who are being empowered, and it's also the smallholder farmers who now have a sustainable income. They know that their produce will get bought, you know. And then, of course, the cash transfer is for the poorest and the most vulnerable. So each one has its own methodology of targeting and selection of beneficiaries.
Tell us a little bit about each one so that, I mean, our viewers will be sufficiently educated.
Okay.
And maybe it can remove that skepticism that you mentioned.
So the Empower program, actually it's a job creation program. So we have like 3 components now. There's the Empower, and then we have technology hubs that are springing up around the country. And then we have the STEAM, the science, technology, engineering, art, and mathematics. It's in pilot stage now in 6 states. In 12 schools. So for the Empower, in particular, we have the graduate and the non-graduate component. And because Mr. President was very emphatic that we should make sure that we should create a level playing field for everyone, you know, nothing like collecting lists from anybody. We opened the platform, online platform for people to apply. And based on that, we had, the first time, because I think Nigerians didn't really believe it would work, for the graduate program, only around 350,000 applied. For a period, we opened for a period of 6 weeks. And we selected 200,000 based on merit, and also looking at the population indices, the unemployment indices, and then the states that had some turbulence. And of course, we had an eye on gender. So we picked 200,000 and sent it to NIBS. We worked very closely with some agencies at federal level. NIBS has served as our enterprise project management office for verification. We were determined not to begin with ghost beneficiaries. So NIBS has the role of verifying the identities. It matches the BVN with the name and the bank account. I mean, all of that. They actually came back to us to say 93% of the 200,000 exist.
Okay, they're not ghosts.
They're not ghosts. So those 93% we now sent to each of the states. And then each of the states, because the youth were asked to apply, submit their qualifications, indicate their interests in either, we were looking at health, agriculture, and teaching, because those 3 areas we needed to address. So we sent to the states, and the states now deploy the youth based on where they live, because it's about proximity to the primary place of assignment. And then also the state had the responsibility of verifying their qualifications, their age. They should have been between 18 and 35, and all of that. Anyway, once they confirm that they're unemployed also, they send the information back to us, and because we already had their details, their bank details, we now began to pay. So, but of course we had issues with some, especially in Borno, they had only 1 mask that was working. So we went to Borno particularly and engaged with the leadership, and they downloaded forms in that state and went around the local governments, got the youth to apply, and then they uploaded the forms. You know, dealing with forms for us would have taken a significant chunk of the money, and we would have had all kinds of other challenges. Oh, the forms are missing or hijacked, and then this is the only way we could do it. And so we got the information from Borno State also. And so we ended up with information of volunteers who indicated their interest to apply for a 2-year program, earning 30,000 naira every month. And each one of them was given a device that had modules relevant to their vocation. So with the agriculture sector, we spoke with the Ministry of Agriculture. They organized the modules that would be put in there because we wanted them to be like agricultural extension workers. And so they needed to work with the private sector.
Okay.
And then with the health sector, we spoke with the Primary Healthcare Development Agency. They too provided the modules. So we gave each one of the youth, and that is what they've used.
Education sector, what did you do?
We put the curricula and the children's pedagogy, and they also have information on entrepreneurship generally, how to take ownership of their lives, civic information, and we gave all of them. But the agric and the health sector particularly had training, induction, face-to-face. And this is how we ended up with youth in every local government.
The ones in education,
yes.
Did they go some form of training because of the quality assurance we have in education these days? Many people are not. If they didn't read any related education course, how do they cope teaching?
Well, they indicated they were interested in education. We told the states that these are the people that want to teach in your schools. And recall that a lot of youth corpers teach without any training. We felt that we were a step ahead because we had given them the devices with the information. In Kaduna in particular, I recall the governor actually had training and tested them. And he found that some were not up to par. So we asked him to put them into the other vocations.
Kaduna is unique. Did it happen in other states?
No. But now we find that a lot of them are maybe even the only teachers in the remote areas. Because proximity was important for us. We told them we're not going to pay you for accommodation or for transportation. So you need to post them to the nearest schools. And as you know, a lot of teachers don't want to go to remote areas. But because they already live there,
we also have a shortage of teachers.
Yes, we have a shortage of teachers. So this was the pattern. We had the non-graduate also. We audited skill centers. So we got the Ministry of Labor involved. We got the Ministry of Budget and Planning involved. They went around and audited state and federal skill centers. And then we signed MOUs with Corbon, the Council for Registered Builders, and the National Automobile Development and Design Council.
Yeah, the one that Tijani... Jelani heads, right?
Yes. And they produced the material. We have manuals. They gave us the master trainers. And the non-graduates were posted to the nearest skill centers. And so it's been a very good partnership. I think Corbon, you can call and confirm from them. They've been really excited at the numbers and the quality.
Perhaps the most controversial of the scheme is the homegrown school feeding. It attracted, if you like, the largest, do we say criticism or media attention? Maybe you use this opportunity to speak on that and how you go about. There were cases or reported cases whereby the media were saying the food was nothing to write home about.
Substandard, yes, unhygienic and all that.
Some, unfortunately, was true, but some were false. Some were politically motivated. I saw a video of a woman whose face was not shown, and she was saying a loaf of bread, and she was putting stew in it.
Yes.
We happened to know the uniform, so we knew which state. In that state, they actually use the Bakery Association as the supplier of bread. The Bakery Association does not give the children in loaves. It bakes buns.
Wow.
The size of buns. So we knew that was politically motivated. But we saw another video from another state. They were feeding children on pieces of paper, right? Those children were happily eating, but we thought it was, it was not acceptable. So
it did happen.
It did happen. We followed up and we found that it was true. So what we did was in 2018 budget, put in a budget for utensils because we were focused on feeding the children a balanced diet.
And also encouraging enrollment.
We've had over 3 million children come in from our records, a 31% increase in enrollment since we started school feeding. In fact, because we only feed classes 1 to 3, we have many reported cases of children not wanting to be promoted to class 4.
Ooh.
Because this
You're
is
benefiting.
Yes. But you wanted to know how we started, right? We engaged the state. You know, for NPower and for JEEP, we don't need the state structures. Everybody applies directly. So we're in every state. For school feeding and for cash transfers, we need the state structures because we're building capacity in the state to handle and sustain. So we need the state to buy in. So for school feeding, we have a stakeholder meeting. I mean, we have an MOU that defines the roles and responsibilities of both federal and state. And we need to work with the commissioners for health, for agriculture, health because of the nutritional content, agriculture because we're using foods that are locally produced, accessible and affordable in that state.
Good quality.
At good quality, yes. Add that we need the chair of SUBEB because we need to know the pupils in the schools in classes 1 to 3. And then we need the school-based management committees. We need the PTAs, as many as possible. We address them and we ask the state to select the women that live within the vicinities of the schools that are known as good cooks, that are known and trusted. Now, the states were given a free hand to do that. And the states now, some of them picked the cooks that ordinarily cook. A lot of women, it was supposed to be an open process. Some of the states picked the mothers of the children because the children go to the school anyhow, and so it means they live nearby. Then we train the women on financial practices. We train them on hygiene, on allergies. We screen them medically. We don't want anybody with anything contagious. And then the state is asked to onboard them, open accounts for them. Every cook has to have an account with a BVN number. That information is sent to us. We send it to NIBS. NIBS verifies and
What is the full meaning of these NIBS? It sounds like
Nigeria Interbank Payment Settlement System, I think.
Nigeria
Interbank, I just call it NIBS, I think Payment Settlement System.
Okay.
So they are the custodians of the BVN server. And as it is, when we first started, we actually went to NIMSI first because we wanted identities. But NIMSI, after a few meetings, we realized they didn't have the budget to do this. You know, they were asking us for an amount that we didn't have a budget for either. So we went into NIBS because the next largest identity holder was NIBS. And NIBS now said to us, immediately they caught on, they said, you know, you sit in your office, you have an account, another bank comes in, open an account with me, the next day another, but it's still the same BVN. Yeah. So our own server is not growing. Okay. Our own data is not growing. But the people you're going to have never opened accounts before. So we are going to benefit from the fact that you're going to these new people. So they said, in fact, they gave us...
So it's a mutual partnership?
Yes, yes. So they actually gave us hardware, infrastructure in their office, and we started capturing. And every time we get data, we send to them, they confirm. And it enables us also track and all the monies we pay people. You know, everything goes through them. I should say that the NSIO itself, as it was under the Office of the Vice President, we don't keep our funds. Our funds are entirely with the Ministry of Budget and National Planning. So what I do is sign off on schedules. So I have a list from Enugu State of all the cooks. Confirm it, I send it to Budget and Planning. Budget and Planning takes out the money per cook, per child, depending, we say every cook should have a minimum of 70 and a maximum of 150 children so that she's able to make some profit. It's 70 naira a meal. And then based on her number of, the money is sent to NIBS and NIBS sends the money to her account. So she's paid directly. So that's the process. And that's how we got the cooks in for all. Now we're feeding almost 9.9 children
Million.
Yeah, 9.965 million children. We have 107,000 cooks. We're in 33 states.
Well, there's been, cases, claims,
In 33
rather.
states.
Yes, in 33 states. But there's so many other things that are coming out that are really very interesting. We need at least 7.7 million eggs every week. So the poultry associations, like in one of the states, market cost for an egg is maybe 31 naira. They say we can sell it if you send the 31 naira or 29 naira to the poultry association. We will organize for when the poultry farmer provides the eggs to a school, and the school confirms to us, we will send the money to their account.
I see.
So they bring down the costs if we deal with the associations. Yeah. These are only for protein items. That's our arrangement, and the governor must take responsibility. So the governor writes us to say the bakery, and of course the bakery association, the bakery, and then there's fish, there's cattle, there's chicken, there's yogurt that we actually pay directly to the associations, and then the associations take responsibility for distribution and payment.
So in other words, it's expanding the value chain.
Oh, yes. Okay. Oh, yes. So that's what I'm saying. There's an agricultural value chain. There's even on the utensils now. There's a lot happening, people doing aprons. And then, of course, businesses are growing rice, grains. You can imagine if we have all this. So every meal has to have fruit.
Each pupil is entitled to an egg.
Yes, in a week.
In a week.
But every state has its own peculiar menu based on discussions between the federal and the state. The state must say these are the food items we have. We go with an IITA professor, we go with the Federal Ministry of Health nutritionists, and we sit with their people, and an agreement is arrived at with a cost that fits into that 17 naira per day meal.
When you say you are spread in 33 states,
yeah.
I know that we have 36 states plus Abuja, that's 37.
So
what happened to those 4 geographic?
They were, I don't know why Lagos didn't come on board early.
So Lagos,
enough.
Which state again?
Lagos, FCT, interestingly.
Interesting, yes.
Yes, and then Bayelsa. It's 3.
That's 3.
Okay. I think it's Nasarawa.
Okay.
I think. I have so much, but I know that we have the data in now for Lagos and the FCT. And I must say, some of this is back and forth. We send to NIBS. NIBS says, oh, it's only 23% of them that are verified. We send back to the state comes back to us and says, okay, we've done more. Then it's 54%, and then we go back again. Because a lot of these women, remember, have never handled financial transactions. The numbers, for the BVN and the accounts is not something, they're not literate, a lot of them. So it takes time for us to get, but unless you have all the numbers right, the money won't hit her account. So this is the challenge, this is where there are delays. FCT too, the same thing.
But talking about the gap now, I know some states are also keen into this social investment program, like Kwara, Akwa Ibom. They're doing their own on the state level, not from the federal level. Now, in terms of bridging the gap, if we're talking synergy with the states, it's a very commendable initiative, no doubt. In fact, it's been tagged the largest social welfare in the history of Nigeria. I'm looking at states, particularly the IDPs. I know there are special interventions for them, but children in the IDPs, do they have schools?
We are feeding in some camps, right, where the states tell us the children in these schools have been moved to these camps, and the cooks are also there. But I should say that is where there's a different humanitarian effort. Those humanitarian agencies are dealing with the issues that concern the communal conflicts, the emergency areas that we have. Our mandate at the National Social Investment Office is to go around the country, irrespective of whether there's anything, because there's poverty, because there's the out-of-school children. So we have an eye on the entire country, and we have had to come up with a strategy that ensures that we go around the entire country. So for JEEP and for Empower, because we don't need the state structures, everybody's on board. For Kwara and for any state that wants to do social investment, of course, they should go ahead. It's helping their people. But I must say, you know, I haven't spoken about Jeep yet, because what we see about trader money is the vice president in a market. He doesn't disburse money. It's disbursed by agents. And for every applicant, we have the back-end technology. So we have the profile, we have the picture, we even have geo-tagged them. So we know where they are. So one of the things that happened recently is the Kwara State Governor came to our command center and saw it, and he asked if it's possible to ring-fence funds from Kwara, if he gives us, for only Kwara State traders. You understand? And if we can just...
kind of a micro scheme.
Yes, so that he can give us the money. No, well, they can do it, but they will use our back end because it was transparent. It showed him clearly. He wanted to know in this market how many people. He could see how many thousand. He could see when they received the loan, how much they had paid back so far, and what item they were selling. Based on that, we could tell what moves faster, because the people that pay back fastest are the people that are able to sell their
products.
So clothes, baby things, you know, food items, spare parts, all of that is on our dashboard.
You can even give data to all these other organizations.
Yes, of course, of course.
But they are not coming, are they?
People are approaching us for the... Gombe State too has also come and seen the command center, because that story hasn't come out, because all people see is what is outside. But we're making recoveries, and we're seeing that people are really excited. The target really was to ensure that people who have no access to finance, no trader can go into a bank and say, I want 10,000 naira because he's frying akara or whatever. Let's give those people money.
But are they complying in terms of paying back these loans?
Yes, well, the incentive is if you pay back within 6 months, you get more.
So far, how much have you given and how much have you recovered?
We've spent, all in all, for Jeep, about 20 billion on...
Naira.
20 billion naira. I should say it's managed by the Bank of Industry, because the NSIO is quite a lean team. We've been very focused on the fact that ours is to coordinate, to set standards, to ensure that the states meet and comply for us to be able to engage. But the mandates for primary health care, for primary education, is at state level, and constitutionally we can't take over that responsibility. So ours is just to coordinate, and to get the states to engage, we are working with their staff and for sustainable...
How do you get the data for the average trader in a market? That's one.
Our agents...
At media level, we get to hear that only when we see Mr. Vice President in any of the markets.
Yes.
So what is the process? Take us through so that it can address the skepticism.
Yeah, it's the Bank of Industry that recruit agents. And then the agents go into the market, and if you have a phone, they ask you, are you interested in a loan? Right? And if they indicate they're interested, a picture is taken of the person and of the trade. If it's because we have a lot of women in the north that don't go to the markets. We encouraged information, we garnered information on clusters of businesses, whether it's kuli or groundnut oil or...
Do you have that of Fura with the average Fulani woman?
We have of of the what do you call it now, yogurt. The women that sell the local yogurt. So we go to there, once we encourage the states to cluster them, and then we capture them where they are, and we geotag them. It's the agents that we use that supply the information. Once they submit that information, we send the money to them. And recovery has been slower than actually disbursement. But it's picking up. We've done scratch cards now that you can buy in the market towards repayments. And a lot of people, you know, I was saying the other day, I was in Kano, I was going into the airport, and some chap followed me. Hajia. I turned and I was a bit worried because he didn't look too...
You were thinking of your security.
You know, and he said, Hajia, SIPs. And then I stood. And he said, I just wanted to say thank you, that I sell water in a wheelbarrow. and I got the 10,000. I repaid, and now I've got 15,000. There's an automatic message to your phone. Do you want to take a higher loan? And he said, my brother has joined me, you know, and he says, I wouldn't have known where to get money to grow my business. And you know, it's so interesting. Nigerians are so fixated on how much have they paid back. We set up AMCON 5-6 years ago with about 5 trillion naira or even more. How many people?
And they're to recover anything. Yeah.
Right? And these are huge monies.
It's huge money, yes.
These people, we are over 2 million people now that we've given loans to in every state. And it's growing. The demand is, the people we've captured who are waiting for loans are over 6 million now.
Now, in terms of expanding the scope, are there plans to, you know, build a kind of strong collaboration with the private sector? So, because the burden from what you're saying, the funds, it's going to be tasking.
I agree with you. You know, we've had several sessions on exploring sustainable options for finance. And earlier this year, I went around speaking to some of the private sector, and interestingly, the Economic Summit Group had approached us to say, we want to even do impact evaluations on what you're doing, because you're actually boosting the rural economies. With the school feeding, you're feeding the child, the mother is the cook, the father is the farmer. You know, it's a wholesome community, you know, engagement. So we want to know what's going on, we want to understand. And they set up a policy implementation unit. They work with Accenture, and they've done a number of evaluations that they come back to us with. The private sector, I should say, have been slow to come on. Many reasons, I guess. They feel government, we have to be careful. And then secondly, they want returns on investment. They want to see immediate returns. It's like politics, you know. The politicians want to see the brick and the mortar. They want to see the bridges. They want to leave legacies. They want to build the airport. Building human beings, the education and the health, they're long-term.
It's a long-term thing, yeah.
So this is why they're not too keen, you know, but we have to impress on them that this is how much you can make. And slowly some of the private sector, Olam has spoken to us. They're trying to see how they can aggregate the farmers, the rice, you know, around the cooks, so that they can engage the cooks directly and supply the rice to them directly. Yeah.
We're talking about the repayment, still on repayment. Are there sanctions for those who default?
We started with market money. I must admit, you know, we had to stop because at the end of the day, they're poor people, you understand. And when we put what we did for market money, you need to be part of a cooperative. And BOI confirms that cooperative is registered, and they meet the people in the cooperative in all the groups that have submitted, and then the alerts go to them once they have an account number. Some of them, you know, it's 1 BVN for all your accounts.
Yes.
So if you don't pay back, it affects everybody, right? That was because we don't ask for collateral, we don't ask for interest, you know. And some women were in trouble because they had paid back and others had not paid in their team.
So it affected them.
So it affected them. And once we block your BVN, it means all your accounts are affected. You understand? That's the way BVN works. You have 1 BVN for all accounts. So we had to relax that. But we send texts now of reminder. Our command center, and anytime you want to visit, I'll take you there.
So if someone ignores the text messages, it means he may not, or he or she may not get any money again.
Yeah, never again, again.
But
definitely.
That will be the ultimate sanction that you can.
Yes, at the moment. But we're still going to try and tighten the process because it's really important that they don't see it as free money. You know.
But if you must ensure its sustainability, then there should be encouragement for them to comply.
We have about a 40% repayment rate for market money, which is good.
You did corrected me, but when I mentioned 30 billion being set aside in the 2020 budget, and you said it's 400 billion.
Yes.
We are looking at 2020. Tell us what social investment would do with all that humongous money.
All that humongous. It's nothing. For me, it's just figures on paper because I don't see the money. But really, based on our budget, there's an amount that's stayed. The most expensive for us is the Empower because it's 30,000, and right now our bill every month comes to about 15 billion just for on the stipends.
15 billion naira.
15 billion naira.
That's about how
every
many?
month.
How many?
500,000.
500,000. Okay.
30,000 each.
Yes.
But 200,000 are supposed to be disengaged.
Yes.
in
So once they
December.
get disengaged, and then in January we're supposed to take 200,000.
Is there a plan, an enhancement program for this set that will be disengaged?
200,000. We've been speaking with IBM. IBM wants to train them online. We've been talking to the governors. Employ as many as possible, because when we take out those, when we stop paying those teachers, your schools are going to be without.
Yes.
So that discussion, that conversation has started. We've addressed NEC, and we've got people talking to the governors directly. We have the police have indicated that they need about 10,000 of them, since we're in every local government, for community police pilot. We've been talking with SANEF, the shared agency network, that it's the banks that have come together. They're looking for agents in every location for payments, you know, and all these people, all these youth need is 50,000 naira for them to be onboarded. So the capital has reduced. So we won't have more than 15 billion for Jeep. So, well, based on our budget, because we have capital components like the devices, we have a lot of things that we need, procurement for utensils. We are trying to move all our data from different places, layer 3 to Galaxy Backbone, which is the right place for government data. We're trying to create a consolidated beneficiary register, so all our beneficiaries can be seen on one dashboard, and we can track their growth and measure if a grantee from the cash transfer program gets a Jeep loan. We would know, you know, all of that is important, I think, for
accountability.
For accountability. The hugest amount is, and then also for school feeding now, we have a bill of 14 billion every month. This doesn't take into account the procurement. We do a lot of
14
deworming.
billion times 12.
You understand? And then we have the cash transfer program. I haven't even touched on that. I mean, it's an amazing...
So it's possible the 400 billion may not be enough.
We don't even get... The first year, we got 500 billion. We got 16% releases. The second year, we got 36% release. Last year, or 2018 budget, we got 53% released to us of the 500 billion. This year, we're still on 2019, so I can't even give you a final. But this is what, it's been growing, because I think some of it depends. I mean, people need to see that it's happening for people to believe it will be utilized for the purpose. And what we have striven to do is to prove that this money gets to the last mile without any deductions. Now, I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. I have no control over what happens at the last mile. We hear pockets of challenges. We hear of headmasters taking all the eggs, you know. So we've had to open up a huge, monitoring structure. We have the DSS giving us regular reports about names and malpractices, where it's happening. We have a meeting with the ICPC tomorrow. They're giving us all their own CSOs, and we're going to brief them on what to look out for. We work with ANIJ, it's the African Network of NGOs, all the Abacha.
You should also engage the DSS. They have officers all over.
So the DSS, we rebriefed them yesterday. The operatives came from every state, and we spent 10 to 4 p.m. there, just talking to them about what to look at. And because we have had this engagement for 3 years now, many of them knew a lot of the issues we're talking about, and they were saying yes, and they gave us ideas on how to. The challenge we have is, of course, we cannot prosecute. So what we do is give the evidence to the ICPC and to the EFCC and ask them to please, this is the name, this is the number, please go after these people. And because law enforcement can be slow, it's not as effective as we would want it. We're thinking we should do name and shame, especially in communities where women who get 5,000, maybe the community leaders go to them at night to say, give me a levy. We hear these stories, and we're saying we have to have a strategy that is more, effective than waiting for the investigative process, back and forth.
There's a situation where, I don't know, maybe a rumor, where artisans, young people who were like mechanics, when it's time for feeding, they borrow school uniform and join the people.
Is that true?
Will they look like three? It's classes 1 to 3.
Yes.
Classes 1 to 3.
Young people who don't go to school. There are artisans.
Artisans, there are very young artisans.
Yes, apprentices.
Well, to be honest with you, I wouldn't be able to say no to a child that comes to school to eat. You understand? I get proposals all the time. I'll tell you, somebody came to us and he had this huge proposal. He wants to provide ID cards for all the children, so there's no leakage. I asked him, I said, so a 6-year-old comes to class and doesn't have his ID card because he's lost it. Do we feed that child or not? And he kept quiet. I said, what's the point of the ID card? Our program is bringing children into school.
Yes.
And I know that cannot be the ultimate. So recently we had NBS do a head count for us just to confirm the numbers. And I had to go to UBEC. It has to be more than bringing them into classrooms. You have to support the other end, the supply side, the infrastructure, because you address the SSGs. I addressed them and they were saying our classrooms are now too small. But it's not our responsibility at NSIO to build classrooms. They say, there aren't enough teachers. Well, we're trying. We've provided some of these teachers, and some of the schools say even if the government won't pay, they will retain them. I don't know how. You understand? But they're all worried. We get calls from these, say, please, what can you do? We want to retain these people,
But do you think it will be effective? And I know part of the ICPC meeting you're going to be having is the launch of the toll-free whistleblower hotline.
Yes.
How effective will that be if you have to cover up all these loopholes?
I think it's going to be a big thing, because we really encourage the whistleblower process. One of the challenges we have, because we pay directly, and paying directly means we want to bypass all the different obstacles that people that drain money, is that we have heard that some youth, Empower, don't turn up at their primary places of assignment, and nothing can be done to them because their money comes irrespective. You understand? So we've actually disengaged over 2,000 of them, because we've heard and we've got reports. We send a text to them because we all have their numbers. And
do you involve traditional institutions of those localities so that they will be able to monitor
what is going on? So that's for school feeding. Yeah. I've spoken to a few of the traditional rulers, but just on Sunday I asked if I could meet formally when they have their meetings, if I could have notice, because they have these traditional ruler meetings. And instead of me going from state to state, I'm not so young anymore. When they meet in one place, and I know that they too are not too happy, they feel we don't think they're relevant.
Exactly.
Yeah, so we're trying to bring them in, because I do know that they will actually bring in a lot of value.
Because they can help you monitor the Empower and the school feeding, particularly.
Oh, yes.
Now, the SWAP Foundation we mentioned is a sister organization of the World Economic Forum that endorsed the National Social Investment Program and gave you an award. Tell us, what does it mean? That does the award mean? And then of what impact would we say Nigeria is making at the global stage?
When I got that email, I ignored it. I thought it was somebody pulling my leg, or it was a fake thing, until I got a call. And then someone else called me and said, Madam, somebody is looking for you from the World Economic Forum. Can I give them your number? I said, okay. And they said, didn't you see this email? I said, what is this about? They said, that they've been giving awards to social entrepreneurs. And this year, they've decided to look around to find those that are doing work on policy in governments. So I've been selected as one of those who's doing good work or reaching many, many people with our work. And I said, oh, really? Unfortunately, I couldn't go to collect it, but there was, I got all the information, and it's a community of social networkers, and you get a lot of value in terms of how to attract funding, best practices, sharing and learning, especially some of the challenges, like for school feeding. There are many countries that have done it for years, right? And they've had a lot of challenges. We can leapfrog into their spaces without going through the problems that they have had. So for me, it was.
Does that mean, you just mentioned more avenue for funding?
Hopefully.
To answer her question?
Hopefully. We're looking at...
If the Nigerian private sector is not forthcoming, maybe the international private sector is.
Oh, yes. We already have, Gates Foundation supported us for the first 3 years. The World Bank has given a lot of money for the cash transfer program, and the cash transfer program is predicated on a social register that we're building. We needed to make sure that we identify the poorest of the poor because of the dearth of funding. So we've set out a very methodical process for targeting, and it is the community that selects the people that are poor. And even after they do, in focus group discussions, our enumerators, we train people in the local governments and the states for sustainability, and they must have requisite skills. Then we go into the communities and we hold these focus group discussions. What does poverty mean to you in this community? Because if we say everybody below the poverty line, then some parts of this country will have the bulk of it, and some other parts may have little or none. And meanwhile, we know Lagos still has very poor people. And the mandate is go everywhere in the country. So it had to be contextual. Once they determine the parameters, we say, okay, who falls
under this?
Which household? Then we have a plenary, and they debate the names that have been put forward. Our enumerators are not empowered to sign off until there's a consensus. The community leader signs off. They can't take off anybody's name. They can't put anybody's name. It's the community that accepts that this is the list. So for the challenges, people saying, please put this person's name, all of that. I say there's a list at community level. That is the list we work with. Now, what we discovered is there's some influential people at the community level that say, put my name, and nobody can argue in the community. So we had a ballet in Oyo State, no? So for the third stage, we actually visit each house that has been identified, or each household. And we take down certain variables that we feel are important. So size, gender, levels of education, the vocation of the head of the household. We want to know roofing material, provision of water. We want to know what assets you have. So by the time they went to the Bale's house and he had a car, majority of the people in the village, in that community, had put radio and put a phone as their assets. We only pay the poorest 60%. We don't pay the 40% that are above. This is the way we have devised this, so that we have sufficient funding. Even when states come late, we still have funds that we can pay their poorest people. Now that register is being built in every state as I speak. In the Ministry of Planning is where they host it. But put together is the National Social Register. So when it comes to Abuja, the National Social Register, it comes to an office that we call NASCO, National Social Safety Net Coordinating Office. They clean the data and take the poorest 60%, give it to the cash transfer office in Abuja. Cash transfer office sends it to the cash transfer offices in the states. So the states don't give us money, but they open offices for us and give us personnel. Those personnel go to each household and register the caregiver. 95% of them are women, but we have people that one of the things we look at are persons with disability. We have a few persons with disability who are the heads of the household.
So when the federal government talks about removing 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in 10 years, people think it's political talk. From what you're saying now...
It's very possible. It's very possible. We're laying the foundation, and this is the hardest part. We can't wait for the infrastructure to be provided for us to address poverty. So we have to pay cash.
Can you, as you move on, talk with the service providers?
Oh, yes. We've been in a series of meetings, and I must say the DG, CBN Financials, Aisha Aman, she's solidly on her side. We've done a mapping. They've given us where the payment service providers exist or fixed location agents, and we've done pilots, actually, the last payment cycle, and we had a 93% success of payments through other channels rather than cash. Because when we pay cash, the husbands take the money. You have community youth coming around and say, we selected you, you must give us a levy.
From the 5,000 naira.
We pay every 2 months, so we give 10,000 naira. But these women are so poor. And interestingly, you know, it's really amazing. We also train community facilitators, is what we call them. They're local government staff. We say the state must give us, and we train them to teach these women life skills, financial transactions, hygiene, sanitation, how to form savings groups. And because of that, from this 10,000 every 2 months, 17 states alone have saved 567 million. And it's really so encouraging to see these women take ownership of their lives. Their children are back in school.
So how confident are you of the sustainability of this scheme?
Part of the sustainability, what do you expect from Nigerians?
I want them to have faith that it can be done. You know, that Nigeria can do it. Because it's working. It's working. Yes, we have problems, but we're addressing them. Nothing is perfect. You understand? So I just want Nigerians to have faith and to report when they see an old woman being intimidated, or where they send fronts, the staff of the local government send somebody else to go and collect money from them, 2,000, 3,000. They should let us know, because we intend to deal with these people.
Which is why the whistleblower
this is why it's very important. And you see, because of these empower people that abscond, we don't have the salary payroll of government, you understand, to layer on our own. So we rely on whistleblowers. Oh, that person has now got a job. It's a 2-year stretch. Some people get permanent jobs throughout. Once they tell us, but it's not everybody that's bad. We have a number that have come to us to say, we've got jobs, take us off. Yeah. You understand? So they resign on their own.
That's very interesting. Yes. And I think it's something that we should all be proud of the social investment program of President Muhammadu Buhari's administration. Thank you so much for coming.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for the opportunity.
Of course, Franca Uzoma Odua, who before now had been our head of education. As you can see, a lot of our questions were related to education. Thank you so much for coming. Ruth Aguele of the NTA Current Affairs Unit, thank you so much for the insight. I can see that you are not very satisfied. You have so many questions. We will do a part 2, I think. That is platform for this week. We discussed the President Muhammadu Buhari's National Social Investment Program, where the special advisor, Hajia Maryam Uwais, was our guest. She did tell us a lot about the successes, including the award the program received recently, and the fact that in the 2020 budget, the federal government has earmarked 400 billion naira for the social investments, in line with the administration's efforts and desire to remove 100 million Nigerians out of poverty in the next 10 years. That's platform. Thank you for watching. I'm Muhammad Kuda Abubakar. Bye for now.